So you're saying that the blockchain could be used to make companies more secure?
Well, right now we have a problem where, so you can imagine like a giant pyramid with the CEO at the top, or the president or the prime minister or whatever at the top, and then they have their people that work for them, and then people that work for them, and there's staff, and then they produce something that they sell to the customer at the bottom. And if you are the CEO and you don't like what your employee is doing, you can replace them. So as a result, and you live it every day. So you're going to work 24/7, even if you're not there 24/7, you're thinking about your job 24/7. And you have a lot of control and ownership over everything beneath the pyramid. And that's very efficient if the guy at the top is a good person. But of course, we don't always get the best people. It could be someone like, I don't know, Kim Jong-un or something. He's running it very well, but for himself and not for the benefit, or not for any other. The point is, it's only being run for himself instead of any other thing it could be run for. Now, the question is, how do you know? People always disagree about who should be this top person. And some people say, well, it should be, it should be someone from the Labor Party or whatever. And some people say, well, it should be this guy, my friend, but then they all disagree. And it's very hard for a normal person to know who should be the leader. Especially, just think like the corporation case. One person says, what if someone said we should actually replace Elon Musk with this senior engineer at Tesla? Because he's actually even better than Elon at running the company. Well, most people would just be like, I don't know. That could be true. That could be false. They're going to stick with the devil they know, probably, versus the devil they don't. But no one really knows is the problem. So the problem for the corrupt CEOs is that we don't know which are corrupt and which are good. And the same for the politicians. There's no way of replacing the bad politician.
Okay.
So what you do to solve this problem is you have all this betting. You make all these contracts. Some are worth more money if you replace the CEO, and some are worth more money if you keep the CEO. And some are worth more money when the company does well, and some are worth more money when the company does poorly. You multiply them all together in this big matrix, and it's not very easy to describe on a podcast using words, but it's actually pretty. If you just look at it visually, and I'm writing software to make this a lot easier to understand at the moment. But it's not super. I have like slides and visual aids and stuff.
Would you send me them? I can splice them in when you're when I'm editing this. That would make it more useful for people. But I think I get what you mean. So let me just
let me just say the last piece is that you have something out there that pays off a ton of money if the CEO, if you replace the CEO and the company does very well. And if that thing is trading at $0, like it would pay off like an enormous amount of money, but no one wants it, then this is a clue to you that actually that person wouldn't make a good CEO. But you need like the whole matrix of prices to really figure that. But that's just what it's getting at. You say, well, I can, you just look at the prices and you just say, well, this is worth money if we replace the CEO and the company does well. But you say that, that we'll never live in a world where the CEO is replaced and the company does well. Like, what if you say we're going to replace the CEO with a monkey, and then this is going to pay if the stock price doubles, but otherwise it's worth $0, and currently it's trading for $0. Well, and this is a clue. It's very hard to explain. Honestly.
No, I kind of get what you mean, but is this not so? Essentially, you're asking people, or you're going to create a system upon which you can bet on specific smart contracts in a way that have an intrinsic value dependent on the performance of, say, a company in this case. And if it then you're using the betting market or the market of purchase on these smart contracts in order to determine like the prevailing sentiment about how that company would do in the case of whatever outcome is listed in the smart contract, right? Is that
basically. You could do all this today. This is called conditional prediction markets. You could do it today, Anyone could do it without the blockchain tomorrow. But the trick with the blockchain is, it's like uncensorable and it's private. You can just say, because, everyone is going to be saying, like, let's say you work for this corrupt CEO. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to complain? The CEO will fire you. Are you going to go, you're going to go over the CEO's head? You're going to try to talk to the board of directors or something and say, well, this guy isn't actually that good. Well, the board of directors is going to think, okay, maybe this guy is right, maybe he's not, but he's going over people's heads. That's not through the proper channels. And then you get fired anyway. So most people have just learned over their life, except for like the autistic people or whatever who are immune from this whole, they don't even perceive this horrible political world that we all have to live in every day. People have learned like, kind of all these social skills that help them just live in this world where they have to keep track of who their allies are and do favors for people, be loyal to people, which is all well and good. But, often when running the country or when running a big corporation, it just immediately leads to inefficiency.
So you're
the best person.
You're essentially allowing the people within a company to bet on its performance with their isn't that essentially like insider trading?
The original, there was a website called InTrade, and that was the joke of the web, intrade.com. That was the joke of the title as I perceived it, was that it was about insider trading. And they pioneered a lot of this, and they were closed down in the year 2012, and that is the year that I sort of started to get really interested in blockchain, Bitcoin for the first time. So that was when I sort of got into it all the way back then. And so it has a very long history. And yeah, insider trading is a very complicated idea. It's not, but you want all the information in the market to be aggregated into one price. So it's also irrational to care about where the information comes from. That's the ad hominem fallacy. But that is part of I wouldn't exactly describe it quite that way. But think about it. This is the good information that's being suppressed by a tyrannical leader. You want it to get out. It's really whistleblowing is more what it really is. Think about it. If you're the good CEO, then you actually aren't afraid of this at all. It will just show that you're the best. You have to keep working as hard as you can, but you were doing that anyway because you were a good CEO. So you're now immune from actually being challenged if you really are the best, and that's how it should be, right?
I wonder how the betting would look on Citadel's company right now if it was possible.
Well, there are many. I mean, for many of these, for large organizations, that just the sheer size and means it's more, and the sheer complexity. It means that it's almost impossible for a normal layperson to actually figure out, as I was saying before, to figure out what the people at the top are doing. Like what if someone said, that the U.S. government shouldn't be involved in some military conflict or another? I mean, how on earth does a regular citizen even have any idea? That as far as I have no idea. Like maybe there is something really important there that in 30 years it's all declassified, and then we're like, oh, that was really important actually. No one actually knows any of this. It's too complicated. So, especially when the organization is big, but also for a corporation. A corporation could say, you'd say like, oh, why is the CEO getting paid so much? Or why are they having this giant lavish party? Well, maybe the party is just corrupt, stealing is just a misappropriation of funds for a party. But maybe there actually is some incredibly clever, like it's essential to make some kind of sale or to trick someone from a rival company into like doing something or else, or who knows? You don't actually know that's the problem. You don't actually know what is the corrupt thing, and the people in charge don't know how to justify themselves either, because they know, like they have their plan. They have their plan for what to do. Their plan might involve throwing a big party, like at a strategic moment. Maybe to reward their employees, maybe to reward themselves, maybe for some other, just to get a bunch of people in the same room. And this is the only way to get all the right combination. And this guy's wife is going to ask this other guy's wife, and there's this big plan involved that's half subconscious or something. And, and they like now, what if you had to say something like they have to explain everything in writing to the shareholders? Well, they can't because they have a big strategy that's constantly evolving and it's half secret.
So, yeah, I like the idea. I actually really like the idea. The one concern I have, just off the top of my head, like thinking about this, and you can correct me if this is a poor assessment of it, is just that one of the things I don't like about the way our modern economic system works, especially in Britain and America, is the increased financialization of everything. So the size of it's not just the stock market anymore. It's the stock market, and then there's the futures market, and there's the options market, and there's just like there's that scene in the film The Big Short where they say, oh, if you had like $50 million worth of a CDO on the market, how much would be betting on it? And he's like, $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's like 20 times the size of the market. This like gambling, betting, financialization, whatever you want to call it. And I'm concerned that sounds like this is making that even larger. Maybe I'm wrong, because maybe the structure would be different if the whole financial system was based on cryptocurrency and blockchain. But yeah, what do you think of that? Is that a bad assessment?
Well, I don't know about that, a bad assessment. I mean, I think, there's a different angle. One angle is that there has been the increasing, you could argue that the increasing financialization has made the world less barbaric. So in the past, if you live in a tribe and if you like broke your leg or something, people would take care of you just because you were part of the family. But instead, we would have health insurance today, or the United States is like the exception but because no one knows what we have. I don't know certainly, but you either have some kind of health insurance or you have a government thing that is like health insurance, where something will come in and take care of you until you get better. And life insurance. So life insurance used to be, it was invented in somewhere in the UK, I think Scotland or something, in a church, but it was hated at first because it was thought that if someone, it's thought like you're making money if your spouse dies or something, or if your parents die. So it was like, oh, like that's sinister. They had a sinister angle to it.
And it's sinister if you want your spouse to die.
Yeah, and it's like, if the person dies, the church would take care of the kid, so the community would. So why do you need money? This money kind of is like setting people off. Similarly, but you see today, if you didn't buy life insurance for your family, if you didn't, you would be irresponsible and kind of crazy. So it's flipped 180 degrees. And people thought that, the stock markets were just gambling. But if you really boil it down, like let's say you have a rich guy who has money that he doesn't need, and you have someone else who has an idea. And that person is currently like whatever, a low paid janitor or laborer or something. Should they really have to work for 20 or 30 years and slowly save up enough money so they can launch the idea with their own money? And the rich guy, meanwhile, he can't do anything with his money. It has to sit there doing nothing. The rich guy can just be an investor. The guy can try his idea immediately. There's no reason for you to be, it's requiring a kind of coincidence that someone have good ideas about production and also be independently wealthy. It's like only the independently wealthy people are in. But if you have capital markets, then the ideas they're in their own league, and then the money comes to them. So people are often upset by financialization, but similarly, there was a securitization for this partially created the housing crisis and financial crisis in the world. There was this securitization that you had these mortgages, they would become the CDO, and then anyone could trade it. But what that was supposed to be doing, and what it did to some extent, it did go horribly wrong, but what it did do is that, again, let's say you live in like Tulsa, Oklahoma or something, and there's a bunch of people live in New York. Why is it the case that only the savers in Tulsa, Oklahoma can fund mortgages in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You just if you want a mortgage, you have to live in a place where people are saving money. Like, that doesn't really make any sense. It should just be one pool of money that's available to everyone at the best rate, the lowest interest rate. And then, it's no different than buying the cheapest, highest quality apples from a supermarket that are shipped in from wherever they can be obtained the cheapest way. So obviously that did go wrong because it deleted a lot of information about the mortgages along the way, and then it opened the door to all the scams. But I think you can't, to really answer your question, I don't think you can go back, right? Like, society can't go, if you want to go back, you have to go all the way back. Like, as Karl Popper said, you have to return to the beasts, and you have to just give everything up and just, you have to, if you want to really defeat the finance people, I think you have to use their own weapon against them, which is the entire financialization thing. You just have to make sure it works for you. I mean, you could say, like, oh, I don't like being trolled on the internet, so we should just smash the internet to pieces, right? But then you have, like, spam filters, reputation, something. You have to come up with some new thing. Like, every problem has a new problem. So this isn't really even. This is like it's funny. It is a financialization because it's like what Enron was trying to do, where they're like monetizing the weather or something. This is like that. It's like betting on real world things that haven't happened yet. But I think the key is to just go problem by problem. And this problem that people don't know how to choose the leader is obviously, it's like among our biggest problems on the planet. And by solving it, we will open the door to new, just as the internet has new problems. If we solve the problem this way, we would open the door to new problems. But I don't think that, it's very hard to say, like, what on earth where is it going wrong in finance, because money is involved, right? It's not like if you do someone a favor, you have to have a good opinion of them to redeem the favor. Or they have to have a good opinion of you. Whatever. The point is, you always have, like, this kind of clause. If there's no money involved and there's just friendship, there's always this clause where you say, if I don't like this person, I can just walk away. With money, if they sell you a car or a bad car or something, they can take the money and van. You can never get your revenge. So I think it's just everything involving money has a kind of suspicion to it, and rightly so. But you want it to be that way because that's the only way you can get through these other problems like groupthink or whatever. Now this is a rambling answer, but I think it won't. I think it's not so bad. I don't think it actually increases financialization significantly, and I think instead, a lot of what you had was in the past was a problem of people not caring about how their company would do in the long run. A lot of those in the financial crisis, a lot of people were just like, we're just gonna try to get a higher return than the next guy. We'll push the leverage because it doesn't matter because I already have, like, an enormous net worth. So, and I have CEO clauses that are like the golden parachute clauses and stuff that are like, if I get fired for any reason, I get $50 million immediately. So they're just like, who cares? So a lot of it was run badly. So who knows? But I think you can't just go back. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do to stop me from even inventing this, or to stop the tide of financialization? Like, what are you going to do? You have to go further into it and try and win. And then just wait, because there'll be a new arena, like, soon, I think. That's just part of the accelerating rate of change in the society we live in now.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, or sign up to our mailing list. Thanks a lot to our sponsor, ExpressVPN, the #1 most trusted VPN. Get lightning fast connectivity with servers in 160 locations across 94 countries. Keep your browsing privacy safe with ExpressVPN and get a 35% discount on 12 months of ExpressVPN when you follow the link in the description below. Don't forget, my book is now out and available to order on Amazon and on bookshop.org. That's Brexit, the Establishment Civil War. And most importantly, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.